Hello and welcome to the History of the World. I am your host, Jack Forys. We will be taking a trip through the AP World course in this playlist. So I hope you enjoy, and today we're going to be starting with the very beginning of history itself. So a little critical thinking exercise. What happens when you drop a couple of seeds onto the dirt? Enough time goes by, stuff grows. And people started to realize this around 8000 BC. And as this kind of gets rolling, the beginning of agriculture, now you have people are coming and living in places long term because, you need to stick around and weed and boring stuff like that. Then you have more people sticking around in the same places, so then, you're not just you and your family wandering around hunting. Now it's 30 people, 40, 50, 100. People don't really like each other, so disagreements pop up, so people are fighting, so you need a way to stop the fighting, and that's really the beginning of civilization. Then you have religion pops up too, because, the world can be a scary and mysterious place, so you need some stuff to kind of guide you through and explain it for you. So, where is the best place to grow plants? Of course, it's by rivers, by sources of water. And so the first major civilizations pop up in what are called river valleys, in these areas around rivers across the globe. So we have along the Yangtze, the nucleus of China. Along the Indus River in India, you have, the beginning of Indian civilization. That's Mohenjo-Daro and the Harappans. And you have along the Tigris and Euphrates in what is now Iraq, you have the Mesopotamians come about. That's the Fertile Crust and all that great stuff. And then in Egypt, along the Nile River, you have the Egyptians get rolling. So that's, we will eventually analyze some more of these countries more in depth, but that's why early populations were along those areas. And then in Central America, you have people popping up. There are sources of fresh water around there, so you have corn farmers in what is now Mexico and Central America. And then to the west of the Andes, you have arable locations, so that's the Proto-Incan, very far down the line it'll become the Incans. Yeah, so those are some of the big first ones. One of the four river valley civilizations. One of the big first civilizations are the Sumerians, and they developed something very important in that they have a way of writing their language. And so Sumerian is kind of cool. It's kind of totally unlike every other language. So it's like, lines and triangles and stuff like that. And it looks cool. Just look up what Sumerian writing looked like. And they do it on these clay tablets. And they are in the Mesopotamia area, and their temples are these giant ziggurats, some of which are still in Iraq today. After the end of the Sumerians, then you have the Babylonians. And the thing about the Babylonians is one of their kings, Hammurabi, writes down their law code. And, not only is that an example of writing, but it's an example of how law in the ancient world in the very ancient world worked. And the Code of Hammurabi is very similar to, say, the more eye for eye, tooth for tooth in the Old Testament, the Bible, which again was written in this old Middle Eastern Fertile Crescent situation. So after the fall of the Babylonians, you have the Assyrians take over, and these people are like a war machine. They take over a lot of the Middle East. The Assyrians, and then the Assyrians are kind of jerks to everybody, so they get taken over by a Neo-Babylon. So Neo meaning new, which comes from the Greek new, Neo for new, and then Paleo is old. So just to jump back, when we talk about the difference between the Paleolithic and the Neolithic ages, Paleo is the old Stone Age, and Neolithic means the new Stone Age. Just a little vocab for you. So, once you have the fall of the Assyrians, you have the Neo-Babylonians, some of their leaders. You might know if you've ever read some books of the Bible, people like Nebuchadnezzar, Nabopolassar, at least people like that. And then the Neo-Babylonians get taken over by the Persians. That's like Cyrus and Darius. And that's, we all know Egypt, that's pyramids, pharaohs, stuff like that. And the old Egyptians get taken over by the Persians. And that is kind of the situation we have going into the Alexander the Great's conquests, is a unified Persian Empire, which is, in control of much of the Middle East. They're fairly technologically advanced, and one of their big things is they're very tolerant of the groups within their country. And it's decentralized, so that's another thing, centralization and decentralization. Centralization is to have all of government authority in one place. Decentralization is kind of like the United States. There is Washington. While the United States is centralizing, the U.S. still has it, so there are 50 state governments which take care of stuff, and then local governments and stuff like that. In Persia, it was very decentralized, so you had local satraps who take care of stuff. And I believe that's about all for the very first chapter, and you should be good. Alright, tune in next time.